The desert stretched far and endless under a burning twin sun. Sand shimmered like molten gold, and the air was heavy with heat. Lira moved slowly, her blue skin glistening with sweat. She wasn't from this world, and every step felt heavier than the last. Her heart raced not from the heat, but from the man who followed a few paces behind her. A human dot. His name was Kael, tall, strong, and carrying nothing but a half-empty water flask. He kept his eyes on her as if she might vanish into the sand. They had met only one night ago, under the cover of a ruined settlement. That night had changed everything. Lira had been on the run for weeks, hunted by soldiers of her own people. They called her a traitor for refusing an order to destroy a human outpost. She hadn't expected the human she spared to come after her, nor had she expected to need him. But the moment the sky lit with enemy ships, they had fled together into the dunes. The sandstorm had forced them into the same shelter. The night had been long, cold, and strange. Kael's warmth had kept her alive. But now, as she walked, something inside her felt wrong or different. Her body felt warmer than it should, her pulse too fast, and a strange heaviness settled low in her stomach. She didn't understand it, and that scared her more than the soldiers behind them. Kael noticed her slowing down. "You're pale," he said, stepping closer. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, but her voice came out softer than she intended. "No, just tired." It was a lie. Lira didn't know how to explain what she felt. Her species didn't react to humans like this. At least, she'd never heard of it happening. And yet, her senses were sharper, her skin more sensitive to the heat of the sun and the closeness of his presence. The wind picked up, sweeping sand against their legs. In the distance, black shapes moved along the horizon. Speeders, maybe scouts. Lira's eyes narrowed. "They're coming," she said. Kael's hand moved to the weapon slung at his back. It was alien-made, something he had taken from one of her pursuers the night before. "We need higher ground," he said. They climbed a tall dune, the sand shifting under their weight. From the top, Lira could see the shimmer of a dried riverbed ahead. It might offer cover, but it was still too exposed. She glanced at Kael. "They will catch us if we stay in the open." He studied her for a moment, his green eyes steady. "Then we don't stay in the open." Without waiting for her to answer, he took her hand and pulled her toward the riverbed. Her skin burned at his touch. Not painfully, but in a way that made her heart pound. She told herself it was the heat, the exhaustion, but deep down she knew it was something else. Something that had started the moment they were pressed together in the cold darkness of the shelter. They reached the dried riverbed and dropped down into its shade. Lira crouched, scanning the horizon. The speeders were closer now, kicking up plumes of dust. She counted at least 6. "Too many," she whispered. Kael glanced at her. "How long until they find us?" "Minutes," she said. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small device. It hummed softly, a glow sparking along its edge. Lira recognized it immediately, a disruption field generator. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "From one of the soldiers chasing you," Kael said simply. "Figured it might come in handy." He placed the device in the sand, and a faint shimmer spread out around them. The heat wavered, and the sound of the wind became muffled. Lira knew the field would hide their heat signatures for a short while, but it wouldn't make them invisible. They crouched there in silence as the speeders drew closer, the hum of their engines growing louder. Lira's breathing quickened, but not from fear alone. She could feel her body react in ways that made no sense. Her skin tingled, her heart beat fast and heavy. She pressed a hand to her stomach. Kael noticed. "You're sure you're not hurt?" She hesitated, meeting his gaze. I don't know." Before he could ask more, the speeders slowed. The soldiers scanned the dunes, weapons ready. For a long, tense moment, it seemed like they might stop right above the riverbed. Lira's fingers had tightened on her own weapon. Then slowly, the speeders turned away, disappearing over the dunes. The sound of their engines faded, leaving only the whisper of the wind. Kael let out a slow breath. That was close. Lira nodded, but her mind was far away. She could still feel the strange warmth in her body, stronger now, impossible to ignore. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew one thing she would have to find out soon. Far above, the twin suns burned brighter, and the desert stretched on without mercy. The heat eased slightly as the twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows over the dunes. Lira and Kael walked in silence, the sound of shifting sand beneath their feet the only noise. The riverbed wound between dunes like a forgotten scar, giving them some cover as they moved. Lira's mind wasn't on the path. It was on her body. Every step seemed to remind her of the strange heaviness in her chest and stomach. Her species had never reacted like this after being near a human. At least, not that she had ever heard of. She touched her side, feeling the faint pulse of warmth under her skin. Kael glanced back at her. "You're slowing down again." "I'm fine," she said quickly, though her voice betrayed her unease. He frowned but didn't push. Instead, he scanned the horizon, always alert. His instincts were sharp, the kind of awareness only someone who had survived too many battles could have. Lira had to admit, even to herself, that without him she might not have lasted this long in the desert. They stopped near a cluster of jagged rocks. Kael dropped his pack and pulled out the last of the water, offering it to her. "Drink," she hesitated. "You need it more." "I'll find more," he said simply. "You won't." She took the flask and sipped. The water was warm, but it eased the dryness in her throat. As she handed it back, her fingers brushed his. The warmth that rushed through her was stronger this time. She pulled her hand back quickly, her breathing uneven. Kael studied her closely. "Something's wrong with you. I can see it." Lira looked away. "It's nothing you need to worry about." "Too late for that," he said. "I'm already worried." The wind shifted, carrying a faint scent of ozone. Lira froze. "Storm," she whispered. In the desert, storms didn't just mean sand. They could bring lightning that scorched the ground to glass. They hurried toward a shallow cave in the side of a dune. Inside, the air was cooler, the light dim. Kael set his weapon down and leaned against the wall, watching her. "We should stay here until it passes." Lira nodded, but she couldn't sit still. Her skin tingled, and the warmth in her body was now a steady thrum. She wrapped her arms around herself. Kael's voice softened. "Was it something that happened last night, when we were in the shelter?" Her eyes met his, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. The memory of that night, his arm around her, the sound of his heartbeat, the steady warmth of his body flashed in her mind. She swallowed. "I don't know, but it started then." Kael stepped closer, concern in his eyes. "Do you need a healer?" "No," she said quickly. "If my people find me, they'll kill us both." The wind howled outside, sand rattling against the cave walls. Lightning flashed somewhere in the distance, lighting up the edges of the cave for a heartbeat. Kael crouched in front of her. "Then tell me what you feel." She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "My skin feels alive. My heart won't slow down. And there's a heat in me that won't go away." His brow furrowed. "And you think it's because of me?" "I don't know what else it could be," she admitted. He leaned back slightly, thinking, maybe it's just exhaustion, or the desert heat. Lira shook her head. "It's not the heat." Outside, the storm grew louder. Sand swirled at the cave entrance. But inside, it was just the two of them, the air heavy with unspoken questions. Kael finally spoke. "Then we'll figure it out. Whatever's happening to you, you're not dealing with it alone." She looked at him, unsure whether to feel comforted or afraid. Because part of her feared that whatever had started that night wasn't something either of them could stop. The storm raged on, lightning flashing again. Lira felt a shiver run through her, not from the cold, but from something deeper. The desert seemed to close in around them, and she couldn't shake the feeling that every step they took from here would change both of their lives forever. The storm outside finally began to fade, leaving the desert quiet except for the occasional whisper of wind. Inside the cave, Lira sat on a small patch of sand, her hands pressed against her legs, trying to steady her racing heart. Kael remained close by, watching her with concern. Lira closed her eyes and tried to focus on her breathing. But the strange feelings inside her would not let her rest. Her skin, usually cool to the touch, now burned softly, like embers glowing beneath her blue flesh. She felt dizzy, and her stomach tightened in a way she had never experienced before. Kael shifted his weight and spoke gently. "Lira, you have to tell me everything. Even if it's hard. What exactly started last night? What did you feel then?" She hesitated but finally spoke, her voice low and shaky. "After the storm forced us to hide, we shared warmth in the dark. Your touch, it felt strange. Like something inside me woke up. Since then, this heat in my body will not stop." Kael nodded slowly. "I don't know much about your people, but maybe this is more than just physical." Lira looked at him with wide eyes. "I am not sure. But I feel like something is changing inside me. Something I cannot control." Kael reached out and took her hand again, this time more gently. "You're not alone in this. We will find answers." Suddenly, a faint rumble shook the ground beneath them. The cave walls trembled, and dust fell from the ceiling. Lira's eyes snapped open, and she looked toward the entrance. Outside, the desert sand had shifted, and the sun's light was returning. Bright and harsh, but beneath the calm surface, something darker was coming. Kael stood quickly and peered outside. His face grew serious. "We need to move. They're still searching for you. And this storm might have brought more than just wind." Lira felt fear rise inside her. The soldiers who hunted her would not give up so easily. And now, with her body changing, she wondered if she could even run anymore. As they stepped out into the sunlight, Lira realized the desert looked different. The dunes were cracked and dry, but patches of green were starting to sprout near the riverbed. Life was stirring in the harshest place. "Maybe your body is reacting to this world," Kael said softly. "Maybe your changes are part of something bigger." She looked at him, hope and fear mixed in her gaze. "But what if it's dangerous? What if it destroys me?" Kael shook his head. "Then we face it together." The wind picked up again, carrying the distant sound of engines. The hunt was not over. But for the first time since that night, Lira felt a spark of courage. Her body might be changing in ways she did not understand, but her mind was clear. She would fight for her life, for Kael, and for the future they both did not yet see. Together, they disappeared into the shifting sands, their steps quick and sure. The desert held its secrets close, but Lira was determined to uncover them before it was too late. The desert sun burned hot on their backs as Lira and Kael moved swiftly through the dunes. The strange warmth inside Lira's body pulsed steadily, like a quiet drumbeat no one else could hear. She pressed her hand against her stomach again, the feeling growing stronger. Kael stayed close, his eyes sharp and watchful. He had learned to read the desert's dangers, sandstorms, predators, and now enemy soldiers hunting them. But the change in Lira worried him more than any enemy. "We need to find shelter that's safer than the cave," Kael said. "Someplace to rest and figure this out." Lira nodded, though exhaustion weighed on her limbs. Her skin felt tighter, her breath coming faster. She tried to ignore it, but the feeling was impossible to push away. As they reached a rocky outcrop, Kael spotted something unusual. "Look," he said, pointing. Ahead, nestled between the stones, was a small pool of water. In the desert, water was life. They hurried toward it, careful to stay hidden. Lira knelt beside the pool, dipping her fingers into the cool liquid. For a moment, she felt a rush of calm. But then, her fingers glowed faintly blue, sending ripples across the water's surface. She pulled her hand back, surprised and scared. What just happened? Kael asked, eyes wide. Lira shook her head. I don't know. She looked at her glowing skin, then at the water. Something inside her was changing, something powerful and unknown. Kael reached out again. Maybe your body is reacting to the water or this world. Lira didn't answer. The feeling inside her was growing stronger, spreading from her skin to her bones. She felt different, more alive, but also fragile. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps broke the silence. Both froze. From behind the rocks, a figure emerged, not a soldier, but an alien. She was tall and slender, her skin a pale silver that shimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes were sharp and full of questions. You are not from here, the stranger said calmly, stepping closer. Lira stood slowly. I am Lira, the stranger nodded. I am Sira, I have been watching you. Kael tightened his grip on his weapon, but Sira raised a hand. I am not your enemy. Lira's heart pounded. She had no idea if she could trust this new alien. But something in Sira's gaze was different, curious, not hostile. Sira studied Lira's glowing hands. Your body is changing. You carry something inside you that is not from this world. Lira swallowed hard. I don't understand it. Myself. Sira stepped closer. I can help you. But first, you must come with me. Kael looked at Lira, waiting. Lira took a deep breath. We don't have many choices. Together, the three of them moved away from the pool, deeper into the rocky hills. Lira hoped Sira's help would explain the changes she was feeling. Before those changes became too much to control, the desert sun was setting, casting long shadows. The night would bring new dangers. But for the first time, Lira felt a flicker of hope that she might survive this, and maybe understand the mystery growing inside her. The rocky hills gave way to a hidden valley where strange plants grew, glowing faintly under the rising moon. Lira, Kael, and Sira moved cautiously through the shadows, the air cooler now but heavy with the scent of alien flowers. Lira's body still pulsed with warmth, but now there was something else, a faint vibration deep inside, like a heartbeat that did not belong to her alone. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the rhythm, trying to understand what was happening. Sira led them to a small cave, nestled between thick vines that shimmered silver in the moonlight. Inside, glowing crystals lined the walls, casting a soft light that seemed to soothe Lira's restless skin. You need to rest, Sira said softly. Your body is trying to change, but it needs time. Kael sat beside Lira, gently brushing the sweat from her brow. Do you know what this change means? Sira shook her head. It is rare. Some call it a bond, when two different life forces connect and create something new, but it can be dangerous. Lira's eyes widened. A bond? Between me and Kael? Sira nodded. Your night together triggered this. Your body is responding to the human within you. Kael looked at Lira, his green eyes filled with worry. What happens if you don't control it? Sira's gaze darkened. The change could overwhelm you. Your body might reject the new life growing inside, or worse, it could consume you. Lira's heart pounded louder than ever. She reached for Kael's hand, gripping it tightly. I don't want to lose control. I don't want to lose myself. Kael squeezed her hand back. You won't. We'll face this together. Hours passed as Lira rested among the glowing crystals. Her breathing slowed, and the heat inside her softened to a gentle warmth. But when she opened her eyes, she saw a shadow move near the cave. Entrance. She stood quickly, alarmed. Kael and Sira followed. Outside, a group of soldiers from her home planet had found them. Their armor gleamed under the moonlight, weapons raised and ready. You've led them here, Sira whispered urgently. We must leave now, Lira shook her head. No, this is my fight. Kael drew his weapon, standing protectively in front of her. We fight together. The soldiers advanced, voices harsh and unforgiving. Lira felt the warmth inside her flare, stronger and brighter. She closed her eyes and reached deep within herself. A wave of energy pulsed outward, pushing the soldiers back. The ground trembled beneath their feet as Lira's body glowed with a blue light that seemed to come from the very stars. The soldiers stumbled, confused and frightened. Kael shouted, "Run!" Hand in hand, Lira and Kael dashed into the shadows, leaving the soldiers behind. The bond inside Lira had given her power, but also a warning dot as they disappeared into the night. Lira whispered, "This is only the beginning. My body is changing, and so is my destiny." Kael looked at her, determined. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." The desert night wrapped around them like a cloak, hiding their footsteps, but the stars above watched, silent and endless. As the story of two worlds and one new life began to unfold, asterisk dawn broke over the desert, painting the sky with soft pinks and golds. Lira and Kael sat on a high dune, watching the sun rise together. The warmth inside her had settled into a quiet glow, but she knew that change was still growing deep inside. Sira had gone ahead to warn her people, to buy them time. Lira felt alone for a moment, but Kael's hand found hers, steady and sure. "I feel different," Lira said quietly. "Not just in my body, but inside. Like I'm not just myself anymore." Kael nodded. "You carry something new, something neither of us fully understands yet." Lira looked out over the desert, the place that had been both her prison and her refuge. Last night changed everything. It started as fear and confusion, but now, I think it's hope. Kael smiled softly. "Hope is stronger than fear, and you're not alone." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. From the horizon, a fleet of ships appeared sleek and shining, flying low over the sand. It was her people, coming to take her back. But Lira was no longer the scared girl they thought they knew. She stood, glowing faintly blue in the morning light. Kael rose with her, ready to fight beside her. A voice crackled from the ships. "Lira, return with us. You have betrayed your kind." Lira raised her hand, the glow spreading brighter. "I have chosen a new path. One where we do not destroy, but build." The ships hesitated, confused by her strength and resolve. Kael stepped forward. "She is more than you know. Together we will prove it." Lira took a deep breath and looked at Kael. "Whatever happens next, I am ready." The ships slowly descended, their weapons lowering. Her people saw not a traitor, but a new hope, a bridge between two worlds. As the sun climbed higher, Lira felt the bond inside her pulse in harmony with the desert's heart. She was changing stronger, braver, and no longer alone. Her journey had begun with one night. Now it would change the fate of two species forever. Hand in hand, Lira and Kael walked forward, into a future neither had dreamed possible, but both were ready to face.